Hey guys, M2 Collector here with another figure review, and next up is the Hasbro Marvel Legends series Supervillains Wave 1 Xemnu Build-A-Figure. Here we have the classic looking Red Skull. So very exciting. I know this is one of the most anticipated, the most popular figure of the wave that people have really been wanting to get. Here we have essentially the same exact figure as Dormammu, with a little bit of changes. I know a few people are mentioning Red Skull having the same boots as Dormammu, but the design of the boots seem different, so I don't know if that's a piece that's like glued on. I'll have to take a closer look at that. We will also do a comparison with some of the other comic book Red Skull figures that we've gotten. I have 3 to go over here. So we will do that all together in this video. So looking at it, we have the green and purple, which again, I just really like. It really stands out. If you see that hanging on the peg, you know, parents are walking around, they're looking at, oh, I need to get a toy for my kid. Oh, look at this. It's flashy. It's so bright and looking. I think it really helps sell it, you know, when you see it out on a shelf or hanging on a peg. Just looks really nice with the purple and green. Supervillains, Red Skull, Xemnu Build-A-Figure up in the top corner. Nothing up at the top. Here we have the artwork of Red Skull looking awesome, holding that cosmic cube. Very cool. And then, of course, you know, in the movie it's the Tesseract, but it is the cosmic cube in the comics. There, Red Skull again. The bio reads, emerging from the ashes of World War II, Johann Schmidt rose to become one of Captain America's greatest enemies, the Red Skull. Here we have the entire wave. We are on Red Skull, which is the 6th video. We will move on to a.i.m Scientist Supreme before we look at the Xemnu Build-A-Figure. So let's get right to it. Okay, so here is the Red Skull figure out of the package, and he's pretty good. I already know what to expect because I have the Dormammu figure, but in checking the boots, there was one thing, so whoever pointed it out, the boots are the same but opposite. So Dormammu has these spikes on there, so those spikes have to just be an extra rubber piece that's not actually part of the boot mold at all, because the boot wrinkles are the same as the Red Skull, however, they are the opposite. So Dormammu's left boot is actually Red Skull's right boot, and Dormammu's right boot is Red Skull's left boot. How that happened, why that happened, who really knows? It doesn't affect anything in terms of getting him to stand or anything like that, so there's no big worries there. It is just kind of odd. So Red Skull comes with the Build-A-Figure piece, the Xemnu head sculpt, which looks pretty good. As you can see there, we have the big old ball peg for the neck. Got the helmet there on top. So that looks pretty good. We'll throw that off to the side. Red Skull comes with the Cosmic Cube. He comes with a Hydra weapon that actually has the Hydra symbol painted on it, which is pretty good. I'm pretty sure we saw this with the all the Hydra figures that we have gotten before in the past. Out of the package, Red Skull has 2 trigger fingers. Then he has 2 open holding hands, so he can hold the Cosmic Cube in either hand, and I already put one on his left. And then he also has a pair of fists. These are all the same exact hands that Dormammu comes with, because they are essentially the same figure. And then last but not least, we have the additional interchangeable head for Red Skull. This one right here is the one that actually comes on the body right out of the package, and I already kind of swapped the head around. So let's get right to it and get a zoomed in look at this figure. Okay, looking at the Cosmic Cube, we've seen this over and over again with MCU Red Skull. It also, you know, was the Tesseract. And then looking at this gun, there is the Hydra logo on there, and the sculpt of it looks really nice. As you can see there, some nice sculpted details in there. No Hydra logo on this side, but yeah, looks really good. Okay, so I think this is going to be the favorite head sculpt out of everyone, because this is the very classic looking with the eye sockets and the cheekbones super exaggerated, and that looks really good. This is kind of his menacing face, whereas the other one kind of has the smiling look to it, but that looks really good there. One thing that I do want to comment on, because I just, in comparing with the other Red Skull figures that we have, this is just kind of a bright ass red color. Which I get, right? That's kind of the look. I think it's maybe a little too bright. All the other Red Skull heads, as you can see, kind of have a darker red, and they also have a wash to them, which makes it look a lot darker. And so I guess, you know, it's going to be on personal preference, which, you know, how you would want it to look and everything. The Onslaught one. So it's just kind of one of those things. So, but looking at having it in hand, it's a very bright orangey red. So I don't know if it's just kind of the shade of red, or if it's that there is no wash to it. It just looks a little bright. But for the most part, I mean, I guess it is pretty accurate, but even when you look at artwork, it looks a little bit darker, I would say. But that's kind of going to be my only gripe about it. Looking at the rest of the figure, we got the Hydra armband there. It's just yellow paint over the green, so you can actually see some of the green bleed through. And then QC, wonderful QC. Mine, it's not really that bad. It's not a big deal. It's not anything that I'm going to go crazy about. But the yellow just kind of looks like shit, and then you get a little bit of the yellow on the wrinkles there. Again, not really that big of a deal. We have this black band around the waist there. That is part of the sculpt, so that's some of the only color differences that you'll see, because the rest of it is green with brown boots. These are different boots from Dormammu. The actual feet portions, these calf portions, the shin portion, those are the same too, just on opposite feet. Light green for the hands, and that's pretty much it. Nothing going on in the back. So there's Red Skull. Okay, so Red Skull's articulation, the head is on a dumbbell joint, as you can see there, with that neck piece being a separate piece, so you can actually get some pivot going on with the neck itself. There is some swivel there as well. Let's pop the smiling head on there. So looking down, he can look down that much, which is actually pretty good. Normally with the dumbbell joint, it actually ends up getting pretty limited. He's only going to look up that much, which isn't a whole lot. But you got some crazy pivot and swivel going on in there. Shoulder goes up that high. You get a full rotation, of course, upper bicep swivel. You get a double jointed elbow like so. And it's kind of an ugly elbow, but it works. It does work. We have wrist swivel and hinge. The trigger finger hands do have the vertical hinge, which is good. We have ab crunch, so you can crunch forward that much, not a whole lot. Back is hardly anything at all. Waist swivel in there. Legs go out that far apart. You can kick forward that far. We have an upper thigh cut. You get a double jointed knee, like so. It's kind of an ugly big ass knee there as well. Boot swivel right at the boot. The foot hinges all the way down. Hinge up slightly, ankle pivot, peg holes at the bottom of the feet. So same exact articulation that Dormammu has, because it is the same exact figure. Okay, so looking at some side-by-sides here, we have Red Skull next to Captain America, and they are about the same height and about the same build, so I think the two pair up quite nicely, as you can see there. So a couple of Red Skulls we have from the Mandroid wave. We have that original Red Skull there for when Infinite series had begun. And then from the, was it the Onslaught wave or was it Giant Man wave? I want to say it was the Onslaught wave. We have the Iron Skull, Iron Red Skull. Forget what it was. That was more of an actually animated series, right, for that Disney XD show, The Avengers Assemble, I think it was. It was interesting. It's just Red Skull in an Iron Man suit. He came with the alternate head, which is actually really cool. But I chose to display it with the Red Skull head on there. I may switch that up. We shall see. But next, let's see him next to the other Red Skull, which is the Build-A-Figure Onslaught. Okay, so last Red Skull side by side, and in case, because I'm sure people in the comments are probably correcting me, it was the Abomination wave for Iron Skull. But here we have this last two Red Skull figures, or the last Red Skull figure, to show a comparison. Two completely different iterations of Red Skull, obviously. What I want to do now is, I'm sure people are going to wonder if maybe some of this classic head could go onto some of these other figures, or if some of those heads can actually go onto the classic body. So let's take a look off screen. If any work out, I'll show you on video. That's a no-go. You know what? That doesn't look too bad. It just kind of sits on there. It's not popped on. But you know what? That actually doesn't look too bad. And then I think this one should fit on there just kind of the same, but I don't think looks as good. So let's keep checking. Okay, so it's funny that the Mandroid Wave Red Skull is actually the same head sculpt as the Iron Skull figure, but the peg hole is actually a different size. So this one pops on there. So the red of the neck is not going to match, but straight on when you can't see that, I actually really like the way this looks, because the red, as good as it is, even when you look at images, there's always, you know, some kind of shading that they do in the artwork to kind of bring out the details and the depth of it. So it gives it a much darker red look to it. So with this head on there, I think that looks really good. You know, if you just got to go straight in, we'll kind of zoom in a little bit here so you guys can see it. I think that looks really good. You guys let me know down in the comments below. But again, neck ain't going to match, but damn it, I think that's pretty good. And of course the Build-A-Figure Onslaught is not going to work. You know what? I popped the new head sculpt onto the old Mandroid body, and that body's garbage. The ball hip joints and everything, and the arms that won't go straight down because of the jacket and how it was designed. Not a very good figure. But I will say the bright red on the dark color body with the black clothes, the black jacket, the black shirt, actually looks really nice. I actually really like the way this looks because it's just, you know, the dark colors of the figure itself with the brighter head sculpt looks really good. When you have the green in the super bright colors, I don't think it works as well. So let me pop this head right back on there. Yeah, I kind of like how this looks right here. You guys let me know down in the comments below, but I actually think that looks really, really nice. Let me know what you think. I probably should mention that even though they are the same, basically, they do have different forearms because you could see the wrists, the gauntlet pieces there for Dormammu. That's actually a different forearm piece, but the rest of it is the same. It's hard to tell because, you know, you got the shoulder pads over Dormammu, and then he's got the yellow band around his waist. But it is the same legs, same torso piece, same upper arms and everything. So basically the same figure. Both are brand new body molds in the same wave with the two on there. I asked in the Dormammu video, which name we going to call this buck? Are we going to call it the Dormammu buck, or are we going to call it the Red Skull buck? I'm not sure which figure actually was revealed first and how that's going to work out, because it's usually whichever figure releases first with that body mold, that's where the name comes from. This one, it could be a toss-up if it's going to be Red Skull or Dormammu because they released at the same time. I'm more inclined to go the Red Skull route, but you guys let me know, which do you think it's going to be, Red Skull or Dormammu? Because I am actually very curious about that. We'll see which one catches on. Okay, here the supervillains wave rounding out to look pretty good. So far, we've gotten through most of it. We just need a.i.m Scientist Supreme and then the Xemnu Build-A-Figure. But it's rounding out to be pretty good, aside from two that are just not my favorites, Arcade and the Hood. Although I think Arcade is a better figure and not really much else they could have done aside from using the newer suited body. The Hood, it looks just like the comic, just like Arcade. It's very comic accurate, so I don't know what more they could have done other than just, it's just not the best, right? The hood, separate the cloak and the hood, make it so you can move it around, would have been perfect. So it is what it is, but a pretty good wave so far. Okay, so there is my review on the Red Skull figure. Very classic looking, which is nice to get. Always good to get a good Red Skull figure because the Mandroid Wave 1 just wasn't good enough with the limitations and that poor body where you just can't get the hips to work right and the arms don't come down. So it's nice to get a new Red Skull. If the heads would have had a little bit of a wash to them or a little bit of a darker red, I think really would have set it off. And I'm tempted to put that Mandroid Wave Red Skull head on this body, but I probably won't. Let's be honest. I tend not to swap things around like that. But I thought it looked very good. We have now I now have 4 different Red Skull figures, and this one probably will be my favorite. It's hard to pick this over the Build-A-Figure because it's such a large figure and it's actually really cool. But this one I think is definitely the best out of the ones that we've gotten. But you guys let me know down in the comments below your thoughts on it. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you for watching.